It's incredible how scenic Bandhavgarh is. The meadows, the trees, and it's always changing colors, and the light is incredible. I've always been a forest child. I love being in the forests. It's the kind of non-silence that I love about the forests. You hear the birds, you hear animals, and you see the light fracture on the forest floor and the leaves rustling. Something very mystical about the forests.
Bandhavgarh has been my spiritual home. I'm very passionate about the place because there's something more than just tigers happening there. You always feel this undercurrent of mysticism and spirituality and archaeology, so it's this heady concoction.
It was as though I always knew Bandhavgarh, maybe because I worked with travelers and wildlife photographers for almost 4 years. I had seen pictures and videos of the place and multiple stories of individual tigers.
The habitat is extremely diverse. There's bamboo, there's sal, there's grasslands, so it's a very versatile sort of habitat, and certainly one of the most beautiful in which to see a tiger. So when I realized that my wife hadn't seen a tiger, it was absolutely a no-brainer. This was the place to go to.
To just plan a trip to the place about which I've been writing for so many years was really exciting, and the very idea of seeing a tiger in flesh, that was something that I was looking forward to.
So the first safari was going to be in Magdhi.
It was like living a movie of sorts. Safari vehicles lined up, the gates still closed, and once it opened, it was dreamy. It is still dreamy to just recollect.
First we wanted to check on the Dottie family in Patiha. Surely enough, as soon as we got there, we got signs of their presence.
Just to know that the tigers were there was electrifying. And after a while, the first thing that I ever saw was a pair of ears, and slowly emerged the face.
Dottie has tried to mate many times with several males and hadn't had luck before she finally had her first litter. So there was a lot of history and anticipation behind Dottie's family, and it was just wonderful to see the cubs finally.
That was the first tiger I ever saw. After the sighting of the Dottie cubs, we were on our way back, and there were 5 tigers, Solo and her cubs. The cubs were like playing around with each other. I'd seen a lot of portraits and pictures of Solo. I finally got to see her in flesh. What a gorgeous female she is. She was sitting in the cave like a goddess. She was not even bothered about her cubs actually getting away from her and playing around. How a mother is, and not just her own cubs, but also us who were so excited about making pictures of her and her cubs. She was forgiving us for our enthusiasm. It was as though she knew how excited we were, or how so full of love and respect we were for her and the cubs. To just see her sitting there in all her tranquility and poise and grace, that was something. So Solo was my first adult tiger sighting, and she'll always be special.
We got back to the Sukhi Talab to check on the Dottie cubs, and amazingly, all 3 of them were in the water. It was just positively astonishing that Sourabha's tremendous fortune continued unabated in this spectacular fashion. it was just an absolute dream come true safari. It couldn't have been better.
Tala is my favorite zone. As soon as we entered, there was this air of ancients.
There is this wonderful intermingling of history and natural history.
No picture or no video can do justice to the actual experience of being there. Tala was a blessing. Thanks to Kamtaji, he was incredible. I mean, it was as though the animals were speaking to him, you know. That incredible to witness that firsthand. He just heard something and he was like, "Hey, stop! There are leopards here." And it was crazy. We just looked to our right and we saw one leopard, perhaps a female leopard, and then she just ran away, sprinted away from there. And then we saw bigger male leopard right behind her. He just gave like one look, one stare at us, and he also sprinted away from there. It was more like a split-second sighting, but my God, like there was a sense of eternity to it. That was my first leopard sighting. I'd never seen a leopard before in the wild. Another spiritual experience was to see Bamera's son. So he was actually sitting like far away in a gorge first, and I saw just his head through binoculars. It's like seeing a god or something, at least the idea of God. And then I couldn't believe how huge he was. I think the massiveness was not about his physical massiveness, it was his presence that was so daunting. He was undisturbed, like he walked like a king, and there was eye contact. That's when I lost it. I broke down to tears.
He hasn't historically been able to make inroads into the territory in which he grew up, which is Tala. It's the territory which we all love, which we all associate with the lineage of B2, and it's the territory in which we all want him to thrive and want to see him do well in. So it was just not about seeing him, but about where we saw him. And because it was in the heartland of Bandhavgarh, in Tala, in Rajbehra, one of my most favorite places in the park, that elevated the encounter to the sublime.
As soon as we climbed up the stairs, it was actually Sheshaya we saw first. A monolith carved out of a huge stone. It was like someone saw him there and they just removed. As Michelangelo said, you could hear the stream. And you could see the reflection of Sheshaya in the water. When you think of stone or rock, it's just there, without movement, but the water gave movement to it. It was like the stones were rippling away. Fallen leaves of all sorts of colors. It was a riot of colors. It was gorgeous. There was this darkness. It felt as though the darkness was there for centuries, you know. And something very mystical about darkness. It dissolves all differences. So we walked in. It took a while for our eyes to get adjusted to the darkness there, but it was so beautifully built. There were these small holes in the ceiling through which light poured in, and there were a lot of bats inside. we walked out and there were these langurs around, and it was like going back in time. To be honest, I still am disturbed about the sighting of the Banbehi female cub. She was expected to walk, cross a road, but suddenly there was like too much noise and she had to take a detour. So, I mean, it's quite evident that we disturbed her going from wherever she wanted to wherever she wanted to. So, it was a little disturbing. On the contrary, the Chakradhara female cub was incredibly bold. They didn't care about all the safari vehicles being there, and she even put on a show like a boss. She climbed up the rocks, she sat like a tapasvi, then she climbed down the rocks and climbed up and even jumped onto a rock, and she stood there for a while staring at us.
Well, Siddh Baba holds a very, very important place in my heart.
इस एरिया का जगह तो है ही इतनी अच्छी, हालांकि अब अलाउड नहीं है. इसके पहले था ऐसे कि टूरिस्ट बोलते थे कि हमको सिद्ध बाबा में नारियल फोड़ना है, नारियल फोड़ने से टाइगर दिखता है.
My introduction to Siddh Baba as a tiger home was with the Chorbehra female or the Siddh Baba female.
एक चोरबहरा फीमेल थी, उसके बाद फिर कनकटी.
Both these tigresses used to spend a lot of time on the rocks in Jamuna.
अभी फिलहाल में एक फीमेल है, थोड़ा साई है, उसको भगोड़ी भी बोलते हैं उसको. उसी के बच्चे दिखते हैं इस तरफ.
Ever since Kankati's demise back in 2014, we hadn't seen another tiger haunt these evocative alleyways.
Last safari, we went to Khitoli and we happened to see Daraha female cubs. They are gorgeous, especially the male cub is really, really handsome, and we saw them resting in the shade, and the male cub went away and he came back. We even saw him walk through the bamboo groves there, and that was something very, very royal. There's a reason perhaps why the Royal Bengal tiger is called royal. It was like rekindling that connection we have with the natural world. That happens in any forest. It was more special in Bandhavgarh because of the tigers. I finally understood the madness and passion that wildlife photographers, wildlife lovers have for tigers, and because my husband is so passionate about Bandhavgarh, that's his, hands down, his most favorite tiger country. I must say I'm with him when he talks about seeing a tiger in flesh, and each time it's as new as it can be, as transcendent as it can be. It's as though they're just blessing us by just being.
Because there's something about that animal which is surreal, really. It is almost a relic of the past, although it seems extremely contemporary in the way it's designed. It wouldn't be out of place at a Paris fashion show, I can assure you. There is something almost incongruous about its presence, because a cat, I believe, has no business being so large and yet so agile, being able to hunt animals which run faster than it in a landscape which is so dense. It's just incredible.
I have seen 13 of them on my first trip, and that's something I know that I have something to be grateful for.